I am a teacher, and I try and teach people how to free their mind from the trap that we call dogma, okay? A lot of people don't realize that religion came from the northern hemisphere. All religions, all ideas of theology, all ideas of God came from the northern hemisphere. Why is that important? Because from the northern hemisphere, we can see the North Star. It acts as a sort of rough ashlar. And if you don't know what a rough ashlar is the first stone laid when a mason is building something. They lay a rough ashlar. It's a rough cut stone that's just used to square the whatever they're building, the property they're building. Now, even terms like, let's get squared up, that all comes from masonry, all of these old terms. So the North Star, Polaris, which was allegedly discovered in 69 AD by Claudius Ptolemy, which I find funny. How do you discover a star? I mean, it's up there. It's ridiculous. Now, what's even more funny about it is that they say that they weren't able to use the star as a true pole star, even though they named it the pole star for like a good 1,000 years or so, because it wasn't actually the pole star. They anticipated it being the pole star. That's the story you get with mainstream science. It's a little bit ridiculous. I believe that they didn't discover the star that was always there. People could see it from the beginning of time when someone looks up. So the whole idea is ridiculous. However, theology and religion comes from the northern hemisphere because that pole star acts as a center point. And from that center point, the ancient people were able to create stories based on the constellations, which is why you have different zodiacs depending on what part of the world you live in, okay? Now, Chinese have a different zodiac. Is it because the stars have changed over the years? No. It's because they have different animals in their land, in their world. And the word zodiac means circle of animals, okay? It's a Greek word, zodiac. It goes back to zodiakos, and it means circle of animals, okay? Now, the word kingdom also goes back to zodiakos, which means circle of animals. So in the Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy kingdom come. What are we talking about? Thy kingdom come. We're talking about the age in the sky. The ages are tied to the zodiacal signs. So basically what happens is every sign that we have 12 or 13, depending on what you use, what system, what ones you use. I'm going to go by 12 because those are the system that they have given us for most of my life, okay? They just introduced the 13th sign, whatever, I get it, it's there, and it probably should be because there are 13 moon cycles, so it makes sense in my head. But for the sake of right now, I'm going to say that I'm going to talk about the 12 original zodiacal signs. Each one of these signs, what they do is they rotate around us, and they've been circling around us forever. Because, I mean, they are drawn on temple walls. Look up the Temple of Esna. The zodiac signs are drawn in on the walls, and they're the same as they are today. So that tells me they've been around for quite some time now. So basically what we have here is we have thousands of years ago, we have people looking up in the sky, just like we do now with the clouds, and we paint pictures with the clouds. They did this with the stars. And all of these characters that they developed over time became more and more developed, and these characters, these things turned into stories. Okay, I'll give you an example. Lucifer. A lot of people don't realize, like they think Lucifer and Satan are the same. First, they're not. They're two completely different things. And they're also not men running around with horns and this whole thing. The idea of the goat horn goes back, way back before the idea of a man named Lucifer or Satan, okay? The goat is a very old idea. I mean, Zeus was raised by a fairy goat in the story, and he was fed from the goat horn. He was fed nectar and all the nutrients that he needed for life. They came out of the goat horn. The goat symbolizes earth, as it's an earth animal. There's so much to it. You know, the face of the goat basically looks exactly like a female uterus. It also resembles the sigil for Lucifer, which is our visual cortex in our head, because everything that we see is light. The word light in Latin is luz, okay, or louche. This is where we get the word Lucifer. Now, the Lucifer is actually Venus, and it makes a lot of sense when you understand why. Because if you look out in the morning before the sun comes up, if you look up in the sky, you're going to see a very bright light. That light used to be called the morning star. I mean, it still is, depending on how much knowledge people have. The morning star is the planet Venus. Now, that is the third brightest light in the sky. It goes the sun, the moon, then Venus. So over the years, the story became that the light in the sky, the morning star, or the rising star, the morning star, became an enemy of the Son of God. And who is the Son of God? Well, historically, the Son of God has always been the sun in the sky. That is the representation of God, because you've never been able to see God. No one has seen him with their own eyes, but they have seen the sun. And the sun is the symbol or the metaphor, or the sun is the resemblance of God the Father, because the Father made the Son, and a father always is, the Son always resembles the Father. He always is a symbol for the Father, okay? If you have a son, your son is going to resemble you, and that's how it works. So you can't see the Son. You never have been able to see God. You've been able to see his Son, which is where the whole idea of the Son of God comes from, okay? Why do you think Christians worship on Sunday? Because it has to do with the sun. Why do you think the Catholic priests raise the communion wafer, which is the sun? A lot of Catholics think that the communion wafer is a symbol for a man. But I gotta be honest, a circle with a cross in it has never in the history of mankind been a symbol for a man. It is an ancient petroglyph for the sun, and that is what it always has been. So when people say, oh, the Eucharist, the communion, it's a symbol for Jesus's body, it isn't. It's a symbol for the sun in the sky. Jesus is Christ. Christ is oil. Again, the word Christ means oil or anointed. Why anointed? Because you're anointed with oil, okay? The oil comes from your pineal gland. So, and here's where you have this Gnostic term that people hear, as above, so below. Everything happening in the sky happens on earth and in your body. So all of this old symbolism on, the anointed one and, the Christ symbolism, it's because we have oil in our brain that gets released. It drips down your 33 vertebrae. The whole life of Jesus is in you because of the 33 years. You have the 33 vertebrae, where we also get the word Santa Claus, because the colostrum in your brain drips down the 33 vertebrae and goes down the chimney. So you have the claws going down the chimney, the Santa Claus. That whole idea, that's where we get it. So when you start to understand these things, they make way more sense than a story about a man that was born of a virgin who was the Son of God himself. We are all the sons of God, okay? The Bible is not an autobiography, and it's not a biography. It's not a true story, okay? It's a story. Same as the turtle racing the hare, okay? I could tell that story the turtle beats the rabbit because the rabbit falls asleep at the finish line because he's cocky. If you tell that story to somebody, nobody's going to ask you, well, what if the rabbit was tired that day? Or what if the turtle took steroids? Or what if the turtle was he's in wicked good shape, and the rabbit, he's a smoker, so he really wasn't feeling it, he wasn't doing well. No, nobody says that. You understand that it's a story. You understand that the rabbit loses because he's cocky. The turtle tried harder, and it's all about effort and trying. You get the concept. People aren't getting the concept of the Bible. They're not understanding. The New Testament, Jesus is a metaphor for the sun, which is a metaphor for enlightenment. Spiritual enlightenment. It's all within you. And this is what I teach, because when you learn, it's within you. You can take back your power. So if you want to learn this stuff, check out my website. There's tons of free information on there. I just wrote 2 books. One's called Ancient Belief Systems, Where Religion Came From, the whole story. I mean, there's so much info in it. It's $10 digital. And then the other book I just wrote is a symbol book. Over 400 symbols, so much information on each one. I love you all, and of course this is for entertainment and satire purposes.